From ancient markets to bustling global scenes, economics and management, the architects of dreams. They've carved empires and brought revolutions, shaped nations' fates, and built institutions. They've steered great ships through storm of change, navigating crisis, broadening our range. From the rise of nations to innovations that gleam, these twin pillars build our shared dream. As history unfolds and the future we mold, economics and management are the stories we hold. Good morning to all the dignitaries, invitees, professors, delegates, and dear students. I, Professor Vrinda Dave, stand before you today with great excitement as we start to gather the celebrate the spirit of economics. Gujarat Law Society has been in the field of education for over a period of 9 decades and is considered as one of the largest and most renowned destinations for education in Gujarat. The society stands as a synonym for contemporary education in the region with the emphasis on quality. Its foundations were laid down by the Iron Man of India, Shri Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Shri Ganesh Mavlankar, the first Speaker of Lok Sabha, and Sheth Shri Kasturbhai Lalbhai, late Shri I. M. Nanavati, the legal luminary, and other visionaries. Today, the name GLS has become synonymous with education all over Gujarat. It established a statutory state private university by an act of Gujarat State Assembly in 2015. GLS University is set up with the vision to benchmark global standards of education and create path-breaking programs in the areas of strategic importance, not only to the country, but also across the world. The university is the brainchild of Shri Sudhir Bhai Nanavati, President, GLS University. Since its establishment in 1997, our BBA Honours and BBA program goes beyond narrow confines, offering specializations in marketing, accounting and finance, international business, human resource management, entrepreneurship, as well as public policy and administration. And not just that, we also offer a distinctive BBA plus ACCA program. This wide approach ensures our graduates are prepared for diverse leadership roles across various sectors in the business world. Welcome to the second edition of EcoFest and the maiden edition of FOBA MUN in collaboration with Monex, a momentous gathering where economics takes center stage in rampaging the narratives of the world. This year, seats were house full for the event with eager minds ready to explore the profound impact of these fields on history and our future. Consider the ancient concept of dharma, a term that encapsulates duty, righteousness, and moral responsibility. How does this timeless principle relate to modern economics and management? Can the ethical framework of dharma be applied to contemporary business practices? How have economic theories shaped the cultural and social dynamics of societies across different eras? What can we learn from the historical economic systems, and how can these lessons inform our strategies today? How do we reconcile economic growth with environmental sustainability? Can management theories help us to navigate the complexities of a rapidly changing world? These intriguing questions set the stage for a vibrant exploration of our theme this year, how economics and management shaped history and continue to do so. Economics and management are not just about numbers and policies. They are about people, societies, and the changes that shape our world. From barter systems of ancient civilizations to digital economies of today, these disciplines have been instrumental in driving innovation, fostering growth, and addressing societal changes. The principles of effective management have guided the rise and fall of empires, the progress of industrialization, and the advent of the information age. As we gather here today, we are privileged to engage with some of the brightest minds in the field, renowned policy makers, economic scholars, and thinkers who will shed light on the intricate forces that drive our economies and shape our societies. This event is not just a platform for learning, it is a celebration of the enduring influence of economics and management on our collective journey. To address our theme, we have amongst us a very eminent personality, Mr. Abhijeet Iyar Mitra. With profound respect, we request our esteemed Dean, Dr. Shefali Dani, to present a token of our highest regard to our distinguished guest.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sir, please. Thank you,
you.
sir.
As we light this ceremonial lamp, we mark the beginning of our event with the illumination of knowledge and harmony. This ritual signifies the belief that makes the impossible possible, the essence that lead us to success, and the blessings that drive our world forward. It symbolizes the spark of inspiration and guiding light of wisdom that will shape our journey today. I humbly request Shefali ma'am to escort Abhijeet sir for the lighting of lamp.
Matches.
Sir, आइए please. सोनम आ जाइए. Lights. मैं करूँ ना? Light.
To unlock any opportunity, one needs a skilled navigator or a visionary architect. GLS Faculty of Business Administration is privileged to have such an architect and as a renowned expert in economics, Shefali ma'am, who exemplifies this role with her profound insight, dedication, and strategic vision. Her tireless efforts and exceptional leadership have been pivotal in shaping our institution's journey and success. Every achievement we celebrate reflects her commitment and innovative approach. I am honored to invite Shefali ma'am, the esteemed Dean of the Faculty of Business Administration, to step forward and address the distinguished gathering.
Thank you, Vrinda ma'am. Good morning, all of you. Excited? Second edition of EcoFest and first edition of MUN. First time we are going to organize MUN. So, all these students, chief guest of the function, Mr. Abhijeet sir, my colleagues, participants from various colleges, and dear students. All of you, thank you for coming. And I, Dean of Faculty of Business Administration, welcome you all to the most renowned, valuable EcoFest which GLS University is organizing since last year. I stand before you today with immense pride and excitement as we gather to inaugurate this year's Economic Fest and Model United Nations Conference. This event marks a significant milestone in our academic calendar, bringing together students, scholars, and experts from various fields to celebrate the spirit of economics and innovation. Economics is not just a subject, it's a dynamic force that shapes our world. It's the science that guides us in understanding the complex web of human choices, resource allocation, and the interplay of markets. Today, as we embark on this journey of knowledge and exploration, let us reflect on the profound impact that economics has on our lives. In a world that is constantly evolving, economics serves as our compass, helping us navigate the intricacies of global markets, trade policies, and the challenges of the sustainability. It empowers us to address pressing issues like income inequality, climate change, and poverty eradication. This economic fest is not just a platform for competition, it's a forum for collaboration and learning. It's an opportunity for us to engage in stimulating discussions, exchange groundbreaking ideas, and find innovative solutions to some of the world's most pressing problems. Model United Nations is more than just an academic exercise. It is a simulation of the real world complexities faced by international diplomats and policymakers. Here we strive to embody the principles of diplomacy, cooperation, and mutual respect. We step into the shoes of global leaders, debate critical issues, and work tirelessly to draft resolutions that reflect our shared commitment to peace and progress. Throughout this event, you will have the privilege of interacting with renowned economists, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who have dedicated their lives to the study and practice of economics. I encourage you to seize this opportunity to expand your horizon, challenge your assumptions, and inspire one another. As we declare this economic fest open, let us remember that the future of our world relies on our ability to harness the power of economics for the greater good. Let us engage in healthy debates, foster meaningful connections, and most importantly, let our passion for economics drive us to create a better, more equitable world. We are honored to have with us a distinguished guest, Mr. Abhijeet Iyar Mitra, a defense economist who has inspired many people. Abhijeet sir is senior fellow at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies. He appears regularly in print and on TV. He has regular columns in News 18, First Post, Print, Economic Times, Business Standard, Mint, and Money Control, as well as by lines in all major national channels. I welcome you, sir, on behalf of Faculty of Business Administration and GLS University. Once again, I welcome all of you and all the very best for coming 3 days. Thank you all for coming, and the students, the participants, within 3 days, please understand this is not a simple competition. Try to expand your horizon, try to discuss and debate, because nowadays education is not only classroom teaching. This type of exposure is required. So all the very, very best, whether you win or you lose. My congratulations to all the participants. Thank you all. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, ma'am. Your wisdom and guidance are instrumental in charting our path to future success. It is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce our esteemed chief guest for today's event. Mr. Abhijeet Iyar Mitra serves as a senior fellow at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies. He is a renowned defense economist, known for his insightful analysis and commentary regularly appearing in print and on television. Sir's expertise is widely recognized, with regular columns in prominent publications such as News 18, First Post, The Print, Economic Times, Business Standard, Mint, and Money Control. along with bylines in all major national dailies. His contributions extend to academia, where he has co-authored 2 significant books and published numerous scholarly articles on defense and foreign policy issues.
And then I did my,
Before his current role, Sir coordinated the National Security Program at the Observer
and then I
Research
did my
Foundation.
masters in international
His
relations.
scholarly journey includes prestigious stints as a visiting scholar at Sandia National Laboratories in Albuquerque and the Stimson Center in Washington, D.C.
Below.
Please join me in welcoming Mr. Abhijeet sir to the stage. His depth of knowledge and experience promises to enrich our event, offering invaluable perspective on challenges and opportunities we face today.
Thank you.
Let's give him a round of applause.
So first of all, when GLS called me for the management thing, I was like, भाई मेरे को management तो आता नहीं है, तो why did they call me? And then when I was preparing the speech, I was like, अच्छा ठीक है. So you know, there's 2 things. I did my BCom. I sucked at my BCom. I got 48% in my accounts, which was just over the pass mark of 45. And what happened with that was, कि I never began to understand accounting till it started becoming important to what I really liked, which was defense. And their opportunity cost and amortization and things like that started making sense. Now, I don't know what different fields you guys are from, but generally I've noticed people in finance have zero interest in history. And people who study history have zero interest in finance and economics. And so the net result is these two never cross-pollinate. You don't understand how much of an impact finance has on history and politics, and how much of an impact history and politics then have reciprocally on finance. So I'm going to take you back slightly before I come to the present time. Do you know the total amount of gold that existed during the Roman Empire? Any ideas? The total world reserve of gold in say 1 AD. Any idea? Nobody? Some guesses? 30,000 tons volumetrically कितना होगा? About 1 Olympic swimming pool. Do you know how much gold we have today? Volumetrically. Any ideas? 2 Olympic swimming pools. That's all we have. In 1 AD, we had 1 Olympic swimming pool. Today, we have 2 Olympic swimming pools. You take all the gold in the world, it will literally fit into 2 Olympic swimming pools, and that's it. It's a finite reserve, which is why most countries like India work on the gold standard. But these days, there is a new standard. It's called the debt standard, which is essentially a hostage economy. The more debt you have, the greater your value in the market, which is why America's debt. सबका phone काम कर रहा है underground? ठीक है, Google करो, what is America's sovereign debt today? कितना है? $30 billion upwards? Trillion, हाँ, sorry, $1 trillion. Upwards of $30 trillion. Their lifestyle is based on debt. Now you'll be thinking there is a finite value, which is gold, and then there is debt where you can just keep borrowing. हवाबाजी करते रहो, करते रहो, करते रहो. And why are people falling for this? Tomorrow, if I borrow 500 rupees from each of you, and then I come back as the chief guest next time for the same event next year, half of you will have knives out for me. Okay, but I bet you, because you're all students, most of you will not kill me. क्यों? क्योंकि आपको 500 रुपए वापस चाहिए. I have essentially held you hostage to me, where you want your 500 rupees back. You are 500 rupees poorer. इस auditorium का capacity कितना है? 300. So 300 into 500, I have made away with 1.5 lakhs roughly. I am 1.5 lakhs richer. You are each 500 poorer. I don't know if you'll kill me for 500 rupees, but you all have an interest in not killing me because in the hope I will pay you back 500. Right? You may not get your 500 back, but you can live in the hope you will get your 500 back, and you hope your best friend sitting next to you will not get her 500 back. That is how your modern economy, in a sense, I'm exaggerating slightly, hyperbole, functions. This is still better than how it used to function in the olden days. In Rome, for example, in any pre-industrial society, take pre-1600s basically rakh lo, your entire basis of your economy was just 2 to 3 things. One was mineral extraction, if you had it. If not, it was overwhelmingly agriculture. और अगर agriculture भी नहीं होता था, रेगिस्तान था, then it was trade in handicrafts and things like that. The total surplus you could generate was next to nothing. It depended entirely on your land control, either for say gold mines or copper mines or silver mines, or it depended on you going and annexing some other country. Which is why तुमने सब सुना है ना अश्वमेध यज्ञ. अश्वमेध यज्ञ क्यों होता था? आप जाके किसी पे आक्रमण कर रहे हो. What is so glorious or right about it? So if you take, so technically, what Putin has done to Ukraine is Ashwamedh Yajna, minus the horse. So why is Putin wrong? Why is Putin being sanctioned? Why did that law change? So in those days, you needed all of this. Then you have something called the Industrial Revolution. Industrial Revolution में क्या होता है भाई? It's very simple. What had happened in the military about 300-400 years before that starts happening in industry. Military में क्या हुआ था कि they got gunpowder. Now gunpowder उसके पहले all we could do is throw पत्थर्स at each other or त्रिशूल्स at each other or spears at each other and kill. This time we can explode. Now one spear, if I say throw it at somebody, this gentleman in the check shirt, that one spear will just kill him. If I throw a bomblet full of gunpowder at him, it will kill at least 5 to 10 people around him. Okay? This is the power of chemical energy in war. It took 300-400 years, but finally it got put into the production process. A production process में क्या हुआ? Very simple. अभी बारिश चल रहा है ना? So you'll have, I don't know, अहमदाबाद, दिल्ली में बहुत potholes होता है भाई. अहमदाबाद में potholes होता है रोड पे. हाँ. I bet some of you who are driving will get stuck. Now, how many of you drive a car out here? Put your hands up. Okay. If not, you've been in a car, so you all know. ठीक है. अगर गड्ढा में आपका गाड़ी अटक गया in the rain, उसको निकालने में you will take at least 5 to 6 people to keep pushing it and getting out, if at all. अगर गड्ढा deep है, then you might not even be able to get it out like that. On the other hand, if your friend comes with a car and he's willing to sort of get a few scratches on his bumper, I don't know how selfish you people are, but if you're willing to get a few scratches on your bumper, it takes just one guy sitting behind the wheel of that car to push that gaadi in the gaddha out. What took 5 to 6 people otherwise has just taken one person and one car to do. That is what the Industrial Revolution is. It's the application of chemical energy to the production process. अब इसमें भी क्या होता है आपके? Why did it start in Britain? Any idea? The principles were known. Everybody knew कि अगर कुछ गर्म करोगे, पानी गर्म होता है, उसमें धुआं निकलता है और धुआं निकल के चीज़ें मूव करती हैं. So why did it start in Britain? Any idea?
Resources.
Kind of resources, human resources. This is why labor is important and not important. It can kill you also. In India, अगर कुछ गड्ढे में अटक जाता, हमारे पास तो भाई करोड़ों लोगों का पॉपुलेशन उस टाइम भी था. सबको बुलाओ, 10-15 लोगों को बुलाओ, 1-1 रुपए दो, निकालो गड्ढे से. In Britain, they simply did not have that kind of a population. Right? If you look through the 13 and 1400s, Britain's population was 1/7 that of France. And France in its turn was something like 1/10 or 1/12 that of India at that point of time. You don't have human resources, you compensate for it with a compensation device, which is your industrialization, mechanization and things like that, and look where it got them. Within about 150 years, by this time the colonization of India had begun. 200 साल बाद उसके 1800 में the whole of India had, guess how many rifles approximately? बंदूक, rifle जो भी हैं. Those days they didn't have rifles, they had muskets, but muskets कितने होंगे? Guess? In the whole of India? Any guesses? We estimate around 1 lakh. Just one British fort, Fort William in Calcutta, guess how many rifles it had? Muskets, sorry. Guess. Just one. कितने होंगे? 1 million, 10 lakhs. One British fort had more guns than the whole of the rest of India combined, which included the Mughal Empire, it included the Maratha Empire, it included Nizam's Hyderabad, it includes the Nayaks of the south, it included everybody. That was the scale of production that was brought to bear. Now, I've given you this little pastiche coming to something very different now. Climate change. Now I'm breaking away a bit just to leave this here. Keep this at the back of your mind. 1 million rifles versus 1 lakh rifles. Climate change, going back to an ancient economy, जहाँ ठीक है आपके resources होते थे, mineral resources और trade होता था. But the main thing you needed was food. Your resistance to climate change was zero. आज आपके इधर you will have cooled. If Gujarat gets very hot, you will have air conditioned sheds that grow up and you will have hydroponic agriculture that will come up. If in the cold, if it gets too cold, you will have glass houses that will come there, heated glass houses, and they will grow food out there. Okay. In those days, they had nothing. So you had something called the Bronze Age. Bronze Age mein, do you know what bronze is a compound of? Alloy of? Any ideas? Copper and? And? Nickel, yes, but zinc. Zinc is the main thing which makes good quality. Nickel se bhi ban sakta hai, but the really good quality bronze is made out of zinc. Zinc was very, very difficult to find. So in the Bronze Age, you suddenly had these massive trade networks develop. अगर आप हड़प्पा इधर से दूर नहीं है, आपके काफ़ी सारे हड़प्पन ruins, their trade links went right up to Egypt and beyond. We know for a fact that Egypt and Mesopotamia were trading with Britain 3,500-4,000 years back, and they were trading with India as well. Why? It was very, very expensive. So you had a system of an economy called a palace economy, which was just high value goods. From India, peacocks jate the. They loved peacocks, not to eat, to have in their gardens. Please don't kill peacocks. It gets you 6 years in jail, if you have any ideas about that. The second thing is, they used to take tigers from here. Tigers and leopards too put in their zoos. They had lions out there, but they did not have tigers and leopards. Zinc was very, very important. The other things that used to go there were largely agricultural goods, lots of processed goods like gemstones and things, which we're still very famous for. Gujarat is very famous for. Used to go out there. Very, very important. Now, all of these were very expensive goods. ठीक है? फूड ग्रेन्स में भी बहुत ही रेयर चीज़ें जाती थी. चावल नहीं जाता था, आटा नहीं जाता था. आजकल आपके आटे इज़ मोस्ट प्रॉब्ली ऑस्ट्रेलियन इम्पोर्टेड आटा और अमेरिकन इम्पोर्टेड आटा. Okay, that was not what was going out there. It was very expensive stuff which could only be afforded by the elites. But the one thing that they absolutely could not do without was zinc, which had to go out there. Okay? Now, that all comes to an end in something called the Bronze Age collapse, which is a system of systems collapse. Why do you think that happens? One is climate change. But climate change then affects what? People लोग भूख से नहीं मरते हैं भाई, भूख से भी मरते हैं. But how that affects you is it affects governance systems, which then affects your trade systems. And what then happens is when you have a global breakdown of trade, zinc आपको कहाँ से आएगा? Copper is available all over, zinc is not. It comes very rarely. So what you do is you go into something called the dark ages. और उस dark ages में क्या होता है? You move to a local thing. So bronze is something part available locally, part available from abroad, very expensive to import and make. Iron, all you need is wood or coal. Iron is much more plentiful, you make it domestically, it's much stronger. In the Bronze Age, iron used to be more valuable than gold. In the Iron Age, it became dirt cheap. All you had to do was cut down trees and make things from it. The other thing about the Iron Age is, because it went from a palace economy to a common man का economy, bronze के लिए अब दूर से zinc नहीं आना पड़ता है, आप थोड़ा इधर खोदो, थोड़ा उधर खोदो, लोहे का deposit मिल जाएगा, एक दो पेड़ काटो, उसको ठीक से if you know how to make a furnace properly, उसको boil करो, you get your iron and then you beat it into shape and you create your own thing. So what happened was, it was a democratization of the economy that happens. It goes from a palace economy. जब मैं बोलता हूँ democratization of economy, don't say कि सर उस time democracy नहीं था, democracy था नहीं, but that's a different matter. It's just that it gets sort of equitably spread out, but it comes back much bigger. The economy expands by something like 50-fold. If you look at Iron Age economies compared to Bronze Age economy, you're looking at a factor of 50 का expansion, ठीक है? And then you have you don't have a collapse, you have something called the Dark Ages, which is the de-urbanization of society. And de-urbanization can be catastrophic, but it doesn't destroy you. Like the Dark Ages destroyed you. There was no pre-Bronze Age collapse. Civilizations were different from post-Bronze Age civilizations. Iron Age में ऐसे कुछ नहीं हुआ. बस de-urbanization हुआ, लोग शहर में रहते थे, गांव चले गए, गांव जो रहते थे 1000 साल बाद फिर से शहर बनाना शुरू कर दिया उन लोगों ने. But to give you an impact, an economic impact, the per capita income of Italy under Rome was around $1,300 per capita. It took Rome another 1,000 years almost to reach that. They finally reached $1,300 sometime in 1400s. That was the economic impact that had. Now, in the midst of all of this, around 1600, after Europe has mostly recovered, we come back to the Industrial Revolution. Now, I told you exactly why Indians and the Chinese did not join the Industrial Revolution. Britain did. But France, which had 7 times the population, why did it join the Industrial Revolution? Any guesses? Any ideas? Exactly, continuous war. Invasion होते रहता है, वो हमारे बस तालाब के उस साइड पे हैं, 40 किलोमीटर away. They keep attacking you. Therefore, you need to keep up with them. Therefore, you manage it. ठीक है? And they knew what was happening across the channel. They knew what was happening with the British, so they were able to do it. We were thousands of kilometers away. By that time, between them, localized conflict idhar. One actually needs it for resource management. The other has to do it for military management. ये इन दोनों का चलते रहता है. They develop to the point where they're able to gobble you up, lock, stock and barrel. ठीक है? But something else came out of this, our modern financial systems. Do you know for most of that history in Europe, usury पता है क्या होता है? The crime of usury, it's a biblical crime. Any ideas? Interest लेना. Interest लेना is a crime. ठीक है? It's a religious crime. And mostly what used to happen with, and this is why you've all heard about the Jewish pogroms and things like that, where they used to go around killing Jews. क्या होता था कि the Jews were the only ones willing to lend money, because Christians weren't allowed to do it and Muslims weren't allowed to do it. So the Jew is the only one allowed to lend money at interest. When you don't want to pay the guy back, you accuse him of something or the other and go kill off him and his entire family, or फिर खाता khatam. But once the industrial revolution starts, what do you need for industry? What are the 4 factors of this thing, production? Labor हमने डिस्कस कर लिया. दूसरा कैपिटल. कैपिटल कहाँ से आएगा? The only fellow willing to give it to you on interest is the Jew. Legally, he is the only one that's allowed to charge interest. So what happens is they decide we can't just खाता खत्म करने के लिए, we can't just go around killing the Jew, accusing him of whatever nonsense it is we accuse him of. And so this has to be stabilized. He has to be given protection. And therefore, in the early to mid 1700s, the emancipation of the Jew in Europe starts. They are no longer forced into ghettos. They are allowed to come out. They are allowed to have jobs. They are allowed to mix around. They start integrating into society. What is the third factor of production? जो आप बोल रहे थे? And ठीक. And in all of this, you then have labor. अब लेबर में क्या होता है? Till then you had slavery. But the most important factor of quality in a production line, as you will learn, is labor. Quality cannot be ensured without labor. अगर आप लेबर को पीटते रहोगे, उसको सैलरी नहीं देते रहोगे, आपका क्वालिटी सफ़र करेगा. और क्वालिटी अगर सफ़र करेगा, then your product nobody is going to buy it. Now it's very easy to have slave labor when you have to go into coal mine and extract something where the fellow is going to die. You don't want to do it, somebody else has to do it. But if you want quality, you need to pay the guy. If you want them to pluck cotton, which is a horrible job, how many of you have plucked cotton out here? Has anyone been to a cotton field and actually plucked cotton? Haath chuba? Haath chuba, na? People don't realize this. Plucking cotton में हाथ चुभता है, उसमें छोटे छोटे needles होते हैं, हाथ चुभता है. Which is why they used to use slaves to pluck cotton. ठीक है? They are fined for that. And so, you know, the emancipation of the Jews didn't happen out of any great love of humanity, or they suddenly saw the light of Christ, or they saw the benevolence of Vishnu, or the good grace of Allah. कुछ नहीं हुआ था. Spain had passed laws against slavery in the 1500s itself. कुछ नहीं हुआ उसका. This all happened because of economics. The emancipation of the Jew and the freeing of slaves, because the northern states of America needed labor, quality labor, not the kind of plucking labor that the southern states needed. It was entirely an economic war. So remember, what you guys do actually impacts a huge amount of social change. Now, we spoke about in the 1500s when the Spanish passed this law, why didn't it have any impact? The Spanish passed the law saying no slaves. पर slaves तो लेते ही रहे. कुछ हुआ क्यों नहीं? Guess? क्योंकि ground reality नहीं था. The ground reality of the Industrial Revolution hadn't started. So one of the things is, you have to time your laws and your ideas when there is an economic reality around it. And so we come to the two things. इधर आपने बोला economics and management, ना? Economics है धंधा, management है डंडा. डंडा क्यों? क्योंकि तुम्हारा delusion है कि मैं बोलूँगा slavery ख़त्म हो जाएगा और slavery ख़त्म हो जाएगा. भाई मैं मोटा हूँ ना, I can keep saying मैं पतला हूँ. That doesn't make me पतला. That just makes me deluded. Okay, management is where I actually get the discipline to go about running and dieting and all of that and start losing 100 kilos or whatever I need to lose right now. ठीक है? So, dhanda and danda. And basically your management is danda. It's different ways of giving danda. मिष्ठम से भी बहुत मीठे से भी डंडे दे सकते हो और कठोर से भी डंडे दे सकते हो. So where does this come into, since your guys are going to do a model UN, where does this actually come into understanding things? Well, see, there's a lot of things which depend, like I said, on labor, on capital, and on the reality around you, the economic reality around you. But it also determines the course of a lot of wars. Management determines the course of wars. Think of a war essentially as a management. A general is a manager. बैंक में ब्रांच मैनेजर होता है या जनरल मैनेजर होता है. कंपनी में सीईओ होता है, आर्मी में आर्मी चीफ होता है, ठीक है. And very simply, if you even look at something as simple as, World War II, you look at the two different management styles. One is a failure reinforcing style, the other is a success reinforcing style. Hitler, how many of you like Hitler? Oh, there are actually hands going up. शर्म नहीं आती है तुम लोगों को? नीचे करो हाथ. Anyway, so there was charming guy called Hitler who managed to fix Germany, kind of. वो उसमें भी nuance है, वो मैं अभी नहीं ये करूँगा. His initial management, ये blitzkrieg, fitzkrieg करना, all combined arms operation, it worked very well in these small European countries. How many of you have been to Europe here? Good. And you know how small they are compared to our country, right? You can drive through France in about 5-6 days. You can go from the north to south or the east or west. So he manages to conquer France in about 2-3 months' time. Okay? He also manages to defeat Poland simultaneously, which is another big European country, but it's smaller than, it's probably the size of Gujarat maximum. ठीक है, तो अगर आप इधर से वडोदरा से अगर आप ऊपर आओगे और फिर रान ऑफ कच्छ जाओगे, टोटल कितना 3 दिन लग जाएगा? 3-4 दिन मैक्स? 10 hours? हाँ. So in those days they had very good roads, so you can drive Poland in those 10 hours. ठीक है. So he managed to capture it. He was thrilled about it. He's like, and the German army did not believe this system was going to work. And it worked. And so at the time where they needed to question their boss the most, they got trust in him and he failed them because he used a tactic that was meant for small European countries on Russia. And Russia का size देखा है map पे किसी ने? So that is your first management strategy fail. Cut, copy, paste कभी मत किया करो. Plagiarize मत किया करो. Models, किसी चीज़ का scalability होता है, किसी चीज़ का scalability नहीं होता है. ठीक है ना? He screwed up. How did he respond to screwing up? Any ideas? Suicide तो बाद में हुआ भाई. अभी बीच में क्या होता है? हाँ, पर why is he taking bad decisions? The entire German cabinet got addicted to opioids. Some kind of hard, heavy drugs or the other. Goebbels was on heroin. Others were doing Hitler. People don't want to talk about it. Was a chronic drug addict. He couldn't deal with the failures. He started taking drugs. And then he started doing more and more purges out there. Do you know the Holocaust actually started as a very efficient killing thing? The Holocaust was technically over in 9 months. It started in 42, it was mid 42, it was over by about end 42. 3 to 4 million Jews had just been killed by bayonets and shooting. जो अब आप सब Auschwitz का मूवी देखते हो ना, ये क्या Schindler's List सभी Schindler's List देखा है? This was the end. This was the mopping up operations that were happening out there. Most of the Holocaust had already finished by then. And this was done why? Because he was now बहुत गुस्से में था. He wanted to take it out on everybody else, and these were the mopping out operations that were carried out. And because you get stuck in a rut, you start compounding your errors. Now look at Stalin on the other hand. How many of you like Stalin? I don't know. ये बंदा सर खुजली कर रहा है पर स्टालिन के लिए हाथ रख रहा है. अच्छा, सर खुजली कर रहा था. ठीक है, ओके, ठीक है, no problem. Now Stalin was a whack job of epic proportions. Whack job माने क्या whack job था? He killed about 3 times the number of Russians that Hitler killed. But, yeah, actual truth. Stalin killed 3 times the number of Russians that Hitler did. And what ends up happening is that Stalin is a very insecure guy. He's a whack job. He suspects conspiracies everywhere. His last great purge was the Great Purge of 36 to 38. ठीक है? About 1.2 million people killed. 600,000 were just execution orders signed. We actually have Stalin's signature on every one of those 6 lakh execution orders in the Kremlin archives. Now, मैनेजमेंट स्ट्रैटेजी देखो उसकी, अगर तुम सुनोगे बात नहीं, मैं आपको डरा डरा के सुनाऊंगा, ठीक है? ओके, बट देन व्हाट हैपेंस इज ही हैज वाइप्ड आउट, बाय द वे, सब आर्मी जनरल्स, literally every single chief of the navy, every chief of the air force, and all but 3 of the marshals of the Soviet Union had all been executed by this time. So the army was in great flux when suddenly Hitler does something wonderful for the Russians and he invades. Now, initially it's setback after setback after setback, and then Stalin realizes, boss, I can't do these purges anymore. I need to reassure these generals that they're not going to get executed. He does that. He gets very good generals. They turn the tide of the war. Remember, Russia won the war. The Allies did not win the war. Russia had already turned the tide and had already entered Germany proper even before the first Allied troops landed at Normandy. You will all see these Normandy landings ke photos where the Americans and Brits want you to believe that they won the war. They did not win the war. Russia won the war. Okay? So, what happens is, he is doing this, he now gets into a good policy cycle where he knows what he has to do to unite Russia, to move it ahead and to win the war. And notice, after 1938, Stalin dies in 52, I think 50 or 52. There are no more purges after that, because he realizes now that he's got very good strategy. So note, you literally have two completely different things happening in management strategy side by side simultaneously in World War II, जो दिखाई भी देता है, ठीक है? Hitler's other problem because of drug use was, when things were going wrong, he did not understand what was realistic to achieve and what was not realistic to achieve. And after World War II, what happens in Europe? European Union. अब European Union क्या था कि they decided very early on कि हमारा aims है, we wanted to rehabilitate and rebuild. But Germany was always going to be a problem. 2 world wars हो चुकी थी. So what is your primary aim of the European Union? You want to rehabilitate Germany, one. You don't want to punish it like World War I. You want to rehabilitate Germany, but you also want to contain Germany. और इसका solution क्या है? The 2 main aspects of war in those days were coal and steel. Coal से ships सब coal पे चलती थी, diesel petrol पे नहीं चलती थी, and steel was what was used for manufacturing. So they made the European coal and steel community. That was the germination of the EU. ठीक है? And what ends up happening is, it's a very smart idea. Germany gets rehabilitated, but Germany's power to wage war also gets taken away from it without humiliating it. Very important, again a management strategy. और धंधा भी होगा और डंडा भी होगा, because all the German leaders were executed, but Germany was given lots of money in the German Marshall Plan and things like that to bring it up to speed. But then what happens with the EU today? They are so taken in by their own success. You know, my friend Sushant says that, you know, India's great problem is that in 732 AD, we were so taken in by our discovery of the zero that we collectively decide to reduce ourselves to zero. So the EU is a bit like that. You know, they were so collectively taken in कि हमने इतना सारा पीस कर दिया है. यूरोप जिसमें युद्ध होते रहता था. By the way, यूरोप में युद्ध होते रहता था क्यों? You remember I told you how agricultural surpluses were the main reason wars used to happen? You could not increase the productivity of land, so you had to go grab land from somewhere else. उसके बाद it shifted to you grab it for resources. जब industry होता है, you go colonize for resources to extract resources. Now you get resources through trade. It's much cheaper. You get productivity. I can, you know, like if you look at what Israel and does, they make the desert bloom. So you can literally go to Gujarat. Technically, there's enough water in Gujarat, enough land in Gujarat to feed the rest of India, even if you de-agriculturize the whole of India. You can actually, and you know, surprisingly, the most productive area would be the Rann of Kutch. Can you believe that? It's the Rann of Kutch with drip irrigation, because a plant will produce the most when it thinks it's going to die. मैं मरने वाला हूँ, मेरे को सबसे ज़्यादा बच्चा पैदा करना है, इसीलिए ड्रिप इरिगेशन उसको ड्रिप 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 करके जो फीड करता है, that is the most agricultural productivity you will get out there. It is counterintuitive, but that is the way it works. Okay. So what ends up happening is, today you neither need somebody else's land nor do you need somebody else's resources, क्योंकि जो भी तुमको चाहिए, जहाँ से भी चाहिए, पैसा दाम दे के लिया जाएगा. Now the European Union wants to believe कि उन्होंने बहुत आइंस्टाइन की तरह, जो आइंस्टाइन ने E = mc² किया, E = EU उन्होंने कर दिया है. It is some major discovery we have done, whereas the nature of economics was what changed that entire pattern, where countries don't go around invading other countries. But the EU wants you to believe that they did it, so congratulations to them. The problem is they think too much of themselves. यही होता है ना, management is managing the difference between reality and delusion. जब आपको अपनी औकात पता चल जाती है, आपके दुश्मन की औकात पता चल जाती है, आपने मैनेजर की औकात पता चल जाती है और आपके CEO की औकात पता चल जाती है, that is the art of management. Okay? They did not get that. So what do they end up doing? भाई हमारे इधर फर्टिलिटी रेट बहुत कम है, हर 2 बंदा बस एक ही बच्चा प्रोड्यूस कर रहा है, our population is going to go down. What do? We get immigrants. But bhai, immigrants are not going to work. All of you, I guess, are from a middle class to upper middle class to upper class families. ठीक है? Now suddenly, if your mother decides she wants to adopt somebody, okay, and she gets somebody your exact same age from a slum, घर में कैसे होगा? At the dinner table, you all, I guess, I'm guessing, तुमको सबको रोटी खाना आता है ठीक से, फोर्क एंड चम्मच से खाना आता है. आई एम बीइंग वेरी क्लासिस्ट राइट नाउ, आई एम सॉरी, आई अपोलोजाइज, अनअपोलोजेटिकली क्लासिस्ट. यू शुड ऑल्सो बी क्लासिस्ट, वेरी गुड फॉर यू, इट्स एस्पिरेशनल. बताओ, सबको कांटा छुरी इस्तेमाल करना आता है? दिस गाय कम्स, he doesn't know etiquette, he doesn't know how you guys talk, he doesn't know how you guys behave. He starts, digging his nose or whatever. चलेगा घर पे? नहीं. These problems are much, much greater. Okay? And I'll tell you why. In a first world country, there is a very good police system. अगर आपने जाके किसी को झापड़ा मारोगे, आपको पता है वो कॉप आके आपको पकड़ के लेगा, आपको जेल टाइम होगा. In a third world country, India में, I challenge you. One, if you come up here and slap me, I bet you the police won't even register a complaint. Do you want to try? Come. आ जाओ बेटा, नहीं करना है. I won't file an FIR, don't worry. हाँ हाँ, रजिस्टर ही नहीं करेंगे, बस थप्पड़ मारा. He will probably slap me and send me out. मेरा टाइम बर्बाद मत कर. I have better things to do. So you will notice the Indian propensity to violence is extremely great. You don't realize this, but it is deep psychological issues. जब मम्मी लेके तुमको ऐसे ही किसी भी बात पे थप्पड़ मारती है, you don't think of it as a problem, na? But magnify this. Indian men and Indian women have very little violence restraint on them. If a mother slaps a child in America or Britain or somewhere, the child will be taken away by social services and not be given back to the mother. You come from a different society, that's a different society. You can't just have migration aise waise. It's like if Anant Ambani did not marry Radhika Merchant and he married, I don't know, Tilottama Patel from the local Jhuggi Jhopdi out here. It's not going to work. It only works in Bollywood movies where a taxi driver can marry this thing. There's a fantastic Assamese pop artist called Rakuda. Do you know Rakuda? Who knows Rakuda? You know Rakuda. Okay. But are you from Assam? No, but you know Rakuda. So I want you to Google Rakuda. Go to YouTube and see Rakuda. All he is, he's probably India's most gifted musician. And all he does is, I am a taxi driver and I am in love with a doctor. So there's these very pretty doctors who will fall in love with him being a taxi driver. Or he will be a coolie at a railway station and some billionaire ki daughter will fall in love with him. There's all the aspirational class that's going on out there. I'm kidding you not, just Google. आपका Wi-Fi काम कर रहा है ना, देखो. So this guy is fantastic. So anyway, getting back to the thing, they get immigration. By immigration कर रहे हो, fantastic. You also start expanding NATO eastwards. अब NATO eastwards, bhai dekh, this guy is a threat to me. Why would I deliberately knowing, see, he's being very sweet and smiling at me right now, but if I sort of took a churi or something and started advancing towards him, what do you think is going to happen? I mean, he's not going to sit around and just stand there, right? You do a military expansion. Then you expand the EU eastwards to countries that have 1/10 your per capita income, and you expect to rationalize the income. 3 whammies, one after the other. Bad management strategy. Remember the difference between delusion and reality is management. So you get in immigrants who are unsuited to you. You get in, sorry, mera time hai? You get immigrants who are unsuited to you. You get in countries that are not compatible with your economy, which you have to subsidize throughout. And you're basically holding a knife to your big nasty neighbor called Russia. You do one thing at a time. You can't do all 3 at the same time. And that is the sort of internal turmoil you're seeing in the EU today. So they got it right, and then they got it wrong. They misdiagnosed their own conditions and cases. Okay? And so, sorry, I've just got the last few things left. They moved on to the next great circuit, which was called green energy, because they didn't want to be dependent on Russian oil. You know, I have friends in Japan. याद है, I don't know if you guys were old enough. Fukushima याद है किसी को? आप नहीं, स्टाफ लाइन को नहीं, स्टूडेंट लाइन बताओ. किसी को याद है Fukushima? Okay. Fukushima, anybody remembers? So there was a Japanese reactor, tsunami हुआ था, और उस tsunami में वो Japanese reactor का बहुत नुकसान हुआ था, and there was a major fear of radiation spreading and things like that. I still remember friends in Germany and France buying Toyota or Honda or something, and they would buy a Geiger counter in addition to it and scan the whole car with a Geiger counter. I don't know if you know what a Geiger counter is. It's a sort of like a rod. It detects radioactivity. So if you take it next to anything radioactive, it starts doing kich, 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 kich. They were literally testing cars. They wanted to, then I'm like, why are you buying Japanese cars, bhai? Mat kharido na, but they did. Anyway, they were going to go in for a second nuclear renaissance, building more nuclear reactors. And they decided after Fukushima, it just took one event to scuttle that, and they decided हम green energy करेंगे, windmills करेंगे, solar, उधर तो ज़्यादा solar आता नहीं है, तो they only have to do winds and hydropower and battery driven cars. Now, battery driven cars turned out to be both a blessing and a curse. Do you know how much nuclear fuel, used nuclear fuel, expended nuclear fuel exists today, roughly? Guess? In the entire world, all the reactors, military and civil reactors, जितने भी इस्तेमाल हुए हैं, उनसे जो nuclear waste है कितना होगा? Guess? ज़्यादा नहीं है. It's exactly the same as the total reserves of gold, 2 Olympic swimming pools. Exactly the same. That is all. For all the amount of nuclear energy you've had in the world, that is all the amount of nuclear waste you have. On the other hand, किसी के पास बाहर कार पार्क में इलेक्ट्रिक कार है? इलेक्ट्रिक कार है कोई? हाँ, one electric car. That one electric car, after 8 years, the battery will run out. The replacement is in the car is 8 years, no? 8 years. After 8 years, you can recapitalize it. Anyway, the amount of corrosive liquid in it is insane. It's not radioactive, but it's very corrosive. And 100 cars alone, depending on the size and this thing, 100 or 160, I forget now, but that was the figure, would be enough to fill up, the batteries from it will be enough to fill up an Olympic swimming pool. 160 cars, 100 or 160, I forget now, is the same as the half of the whole of nuclear fuel used by mankind so far. Energy efficiency की बात देख लो. It's an extremely eco-unfriendly product actually. I know it's very cheap on your pocket, but it's extremely eco-unfriendly. You don't know where you're going to dispose of the waste. It's nasty as hell. I'm glad we didn't go down that path, but you know what the EU did very smartly? They sent China down that path. Okay, they sent it on a wild goose chase where China has actually lost its competence in internal combustion engines. They've invested so heavily in electric right now. So the Europeans have developed whole new generations of internal combustion engines, but the Chinese have not. They've gone in EV, and finally the Japanese were the ones who actually sounded the alarm on this. And now the Europeans agree that they're not going to do too many more EVs. And they're going to allow China to stew in its own juice, because China का पूरा industrial capital और जो industrial espionage वो करता था has gone down the EV path. This is very good for us. Okay? But EVs, not EVs, but electric solutions are very good for us. We did a study where we I don't have the figures with me right now, but roughly we could condense Delhi, which is a city of about 22 million people, into an area just 7 kilometers by 7 kilometers. If you put everybody in 40-story high buildings, I will give you 30 to 50% more built up square footage in your house. 30 to 50% more square footage in your house built up, as long as it's 40 stories high. I will give you better parks. I will give you all indoor heated or cold swimming pools, community ke liye per 30,000 people. Every 30,000 people you will get a 20-bed hospital, and a significant increase in your living standards, air cleanliness, significant reduction in your energy bills with double glazed windows and things like that is actually possible. You can reinvigorate the economy by going in for this clean green energy if you mix it with the correct urban development policies. पर इंडिया तो इंडिया है भाई, अर्बन डेवलपमेंट एनर्जी की बात नहीं सुनेगा, एनर्जी अर्बन डेवलपमेंट की बात नहीं सुनेगा. वी विल गो इन फॉर ईवीज बट वी विल गो इन फॉर नथिंग एल्स. आप सबके घर में स्प्लिट एसी है? And how many of you know that a VRV is actually more economically efficient than a split AC? Do you know that? No. Do you know you can reduce that one split AC can possibly, depending on the position of your house, cool it. If you just install, how many of you have double glazed windows? गुजरात में किसी के पास डबल ग्लेज विंडोज नहीं है. आपका समर टेम्परेचर कितना होता है इधर? 48 तक जाता है. And not one of you has double glazed windows in your house. You're losing something like 60% of your AC is going, you're literally burning money. Wastage. So, how many of you were really upset with Nirmala Tai's budget? किस किस के पॉकेट में बहुत बड़ा, हाँ हाथ ऊपर करो, हाथ ऊपर करो, शर्मा मत. I was very upset. हाथ ऊपर करो, शर्मा मत. सबका पॉकेट जला दिया ना, सबके मम्मी पापा का पॉकेट जला दिया. वेरी गुड. हाय. Now imagine, do you know how much we lose in stolen electricity in this country? $16 billion a year. That's enough to build 4 nuclear reactors a year. Do you know how much we lose precisely because none of you have double glazed windows? An estimated another 60% of our generated energy's efficiency is lost in that. Now, if somebody had told Nirmala Tai all of this, maybe she wouldn't have taxed your capital gains. Maybe your indexation of your houses would have included the stamp duty you paid. ठीक है? पर नहीं होता है. So management matters. When you position yourselves in the UN or generally, remember, everything revolves around economics. Now you project this out further. India's optimal energy mix is solar plus hydrogen cars, which Nitin Gadkari wanted to do, but then I don't know why in his latest thing he said biofuel, but dekhte hain kya hota hai. He might be, confusing people. Plus nuclear. In China, if you want to do a proper risk analysis, you need to do a proper post-market crash analysis of when their export markets dried up. Do you know the trouble the Chinese economy is in, by the way? And it's not good debt, it's not American hostage debt. It's known bad debt. यानी कि मैं आया अगले साल तुम सबसे 500 चोरी करके, and you know that I don't have the 500 rupees to pay you back. So it's a different case. I'm not being held hostage by debt. You know that I am गरीब भिखारी, मेरा पैसा सब बर्बाद हो गया, ठीक है? So you can actually kill me. And with the West, we don't know where it's headed because there's only so much make believe you can do कि मेरे पास पैसा है, मेरे पास पैसा है. See, the first time I go to Mukesh Bhai's house, Antilla, and say I rent a Rolls Royce, वो भी देख लेगा कि भाई अच्छा मोटा है तो थोड़ा पैसा होगा, फिर रोल्स रॉयस है तो थोड़ा पैसा होगा, ठीक है, ओके, गंजा है तो थोड़ा पैसा होगा, ठीक है. But second time when I don't deliver, he is going to figure out I'm an A-grade fraud and have me booted out. Okay. With the West, you only get so much. You can't do more than this. You are heading for what happened in the Bronze Age. You will not head for the collapse that, a food collapse or anything like that, but you are headed for a system of systems debt trap collapse. Keep that when you do your model economics. Keep that when the economic modeling. I don't know if your UN scenarios will include all of that, but keep that at the back of your head. Because economics drives everything. It has driven the emancipation of women. Since there are so many women here, do you know why you were brought into the workforce? It isn't because your Pati Parameshwar or your father or whatever loved you so much. It's because a woman can drive a car just as good as a man. That is because of the Industrial Revolution. जब औरत एक्सेलरेटर पे पैर रखती है, गाड़ी उतना ही तेज दौड़ता है जितना मर्द रखता है. Though a man can probably run faster than you. Okay? So remember, even the emancipation of people in this room has depended on economics, not the goodness of somebody's heart. ऐसी humanities में is all based on greed. It is all based on wealth. It is all based on money. It is all based on धंधा and डंडा. धंधा से तुम कैसे डंडा चलाते हो, यही है. Keep that at the back of your mind and I'll end here. Thank you.